And the Bears put on the pads today, offense versus defense. And you know what? The defense, according to reports, I wasn't there, but according to people in the know, the defense is out there dominating the offense, crushing the offense. And, you know, you can look at it and be like, okay, cool. The defense is good. But at some point, like, we need the offense to start scoring some points. Should we be overly concerned about this? Well, why don't we talk about it right after Sammy starts the show?
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. It is time for Take It to the Rank. I am sitting here in a hotel in a Deerfield office park, minutes from Hallis Hall, which I drove by today to make sure that I had the route down. I will be at Bears camp tomorrow. Can't wait to see the squad, and I can't wait to bring on our co-host, the managing editor of the Draft Network. She was at Bears camp today. We need to get the scoop. So why don't we bring on our friend, Carmen Vitali. How are you, first of all?
I'm great. How are you, Adam? You're traveling all over the place, but you're finally back in your city of birth.
Yes.
How's it feel?
Very close. Very close. I was born in the Lutheran Hospital over there in Park Ridge. So it's exciting. I think I'm very close to where I was born. Very close. So it's cool, and it's cool to be here. Very excited to get after it and everything. I feel remiss that I didn't get enough. The Bears practice early, and we had Courtney on last week, and it was funny. She was talking about how great it was that they were practicing in the morning. I had to schedule this far in advance. I couldn't get from California early enough to be here, and so I missed practice today. But you were there. What was practice like today?
Well, today was the first day in pads. So we had heard rumors that Monday was going to be the first day in pads, but that didn't happen. We kind of all got there all excitedly, like, you know, it was another first day of school. And it was like, oh. Yeah. And so then today, Eberflus confirmed that today and tomorrow will be, in fact, in pads. And so it was good to see kind of an uptick, especially among the trenches as far as intensity goes. But we talked to Jalen Johnson after practice today, and he was asked, you know, if things felt a little juicier, you know, there was more juice or whatever, there was more intensity. And he goes, no, it's been pretty intense without pads. And for the DBs and the defense, that's entirely been the case, at least from what I've seen. I've now seen one day in pads, one day without pads. And both times, I mean, I was just struck by the physicality of especially the back end of the defense. Obviously, the guys up front can't really initiate a ton of contact there when they're not in pads. But then today they got the chance. And I think while everybody was watching skill players 7-on-7, on the other side of the field, the offense and defensive line were going at each other in one-on-ones. And so guess where I was?
Yeah. Oh, we know where you were. I want to, before we get to that, I do want to focus back on the defensive secondary, because I was listening to AM 1530, which, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but AM 1530 is the Chicago home of the Sick Podcast. Every Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. Central Time, you can hear the Sick Podcast. After that, Olin Kreutz, Jason McKee come on, the no-name guy, the no-name pod, excuse me. A great 2 hours of Bears talk. And I heard I was listening to 1530 today, heard a little sound clip of Jalen Johnson. I love him. I love his energy. He wasn't holding back. He was actually kind of roasting the offense. I'm sure it was part of the press conference. He was not being kind to the offense, talking about, they get a little happy when they score a touchdown or this or that. It's fine. I like that the defensive secondary is coming along. We've heard great things about the rookies, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and of course, Elijah Hicks has also been somebody who's been very impressive. And Thomas Graham hasn't even been on the field yet.
Yeah,
What did
he's
you
going to be
think?
on an extended period of time. That was according to Eberflus the other day. He brought up that Thomas Graham was going to be out longer than they thought. He's got a hamstring issue, so those soft tissue injuries. But anyway, what do I think about?
What did you? But listen, but it's I don't know. I don't want to get too worked up by the offense getting shut down a little bit, but I think it's I don't know. I'm sort of encouraged that already the defensive secondary is playing so well.
Yeah, and I mean that's Eberflus's bread and butter. Like they're taking on the identity of their head coach, and their head coach is a defensive-minded guy. He comes from a defensive backs background, and again, while you're ramping up and you're going against your own teammates, there's not a whole lot. I mean, you can take some from those trench battles, especially in pads, but you're not trying to hit each other that much. So you really look towards the secondary because they can, especially in pads, they can get their hands on guys. They can pretty much go full tilt if they need to. And they have, and what's really interesting to me too is, I think Kyler Gordon was drafted to be kind of one of those outside corners in that outside corner rotation. He's slotted in at nickel already. And I think that that's a testament to how well he's picking it up. And we heard Jalen Johnson actually talking about Kyler Gordon and saying, he's picked it up so quickly and he was just so impressed at how cerebral he already was. And that's a tough spot to play. It's a very physical spot to play, especially if you come from the outside. So the fact that you can already get a rookie in there and he's holding his own is super, super encouraging to me. I think that's probably the most encouraging thing to me. And then besides that, Jaquan Brisker has just been around the ball constantly. He's making plays constantly. I'm really, really, really excited about these two. I was excited about these two. I was a huge fan of these draft picks and going in that direction versus maybe an offensive tackle or, a receiver, but I'm pleased.
No, absolutely. And, and a lot of times too, people will hear the phrase nickel cornerback or anything like that, and they think it's kind of a throwaway position. But if you look at Eberflus's history with the Indianapolis Colts, when they brought in Kenny Moore from New England and kind of salvaged his career, he put him as a slot corner. And I was talking about this with Darius Butler when I was doing Good Morning Football a couple of weeks ago, is that more and more we're going to see the elite level talents be the guys who end up being the nickel corner because so many teams now, and this is a Sean McVay thing, and I think Kyle Shanahan also probably did this as well, that you now put your best receiver in the slot because you want to draw those matchups. Yeah. And I think the Rams have done that with Cooper Kupp. So the fact that Kyler Gordon has come out and played so well, and it was funny because Jalen Johnson was talking about that. He has familiarity with Kyler Gordon. Of course, both those guys coming from the Pac-12, Jaquan Brisker coming from the Big Ten. Well, that's where USC and UCLA will be at some point. But, he was talking about how it was funny listening to that press conference. He was like, I had some questions about Jaquan Brisker. I didn't know about him, but was completely sold. So I'm excited about that. And again, I think back, I was at Cincinnati. I was in Cincinnati over the weekend, and we were talking about this. If anybody's going to be morose about the offense being, a few plays behind or whatever, I was talking to some people in Cincinnati this weekend, and we're like, oh yeah, remember Joe Burrow should give up football like that at this point last year. Everybody remembers the Jamar Chase debacle. Jamar Chase can't catch. He made the remark about the white stripe on the ball. People forget they also said that Joe Burrow was washed. So I'm not worried offensively. How are you feeling about the offense?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for them to get in a rhythm at this point, too, because they're trying to evaluate this offensive line. And in order to do that, they're constantly rotating guys in and out. And it's really hard, to get establish any sort of rhythm up front, which permeates the rest of the offense. Yeah. There was a little bit of contradiction today so Braxton Jones came up to the podium afterwards first. And he was asked about, there's been a lot of false starts. There's been a lot of false start issues throughout camp. So I've only seen the last 2 days, and it's continued the last 2 days. And Braxton Jones was basically asked, well, what's up with that? Is it getting the cadence down?
Was he asked that way? What's up with that?
What's up with that? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't the one that asked him, but if I was, that's exactly how I would have asked it. But they were asked, is it something to do with the cadence? Whatever. He said the cadence was consistent coming from the quarterbacks. Well, then we also got to talk to Trevor Siemian, big Northwestern guy, and he actually divulged that this offense has a ton of cadences. So they're still learning and they're still kind of mastering these cadences. And so to hear the contradiction, I mean, granted, I think we should probably give Braxton Jones some leeway here. He's a rookie. Cadences aren't necessarily as stressed in college, depending on what program you come from. That could be something that's completely new to him. Because quite honestly, that's not necessarily cadences in general, but just the variation in them it can be different for different schools at the collegiate level, especially. So I won't put a whole lot. I'll give Braxton Jones some grace here in saying that the things were the cadence was consistent. But what it sounds like is not only are they trying to master these different cadences, they're also trying to do it with a constantly shuffling rotation of offensive linemen. So that's where you get the jumps from. That this is the time to make those mistakes too. I mean, we're not even a week into camp at this point. So I'm not pressing, I've seen some really great flashes out of Justin Fields. This offense looks to be drastically different than what we saw last year in a good way. And I just think that it's just going to take a little bit more time, and we shouldn't be pressing the panic button on anything. Overthrows, missing targets, all that other stuff that's supposed to happen right now.
Yeah, I'll get to the panic button here in a moment, but Braxton Jones, I think also he's a rookie who does not want to rock the boat, who probably I don't know what to say here.
Yeah, he's not gonna snitch on anyone and be like, yeah, actually their cadences suck right now.
He's not gonna be like, our quarterbacks are blowing it. No, he's never saying that. I'm glad, even if he gets contradicted, let Trevor go up there and contradict him.
Right.
I'm fine with that. Braxton just trying to do it. I will say this though. I don't know where to go with this first. Since you're talking about him, it's my understanding that Braxton was playing left tackle exclusively today, and it was Riley Reiff switching at right tackle with Larry Borum. Is that can you confirm that?
Yeah, no, almost exclusively left tackle for Braxton Jones. And and honestly, this is something that it was a welcomed sight for me, because we talked about Riley Reiff. Switching up with Larry Borum. They say that Riley Reiff is still in kind of the ramp up period. Yeah. Although Michael Schofield seems to be kind of slotted in at guard, and he's been taking most of the reps there too. Sam Mustipher at center. So I saw in those one-on-ones that I was watching, I saw Larry Borum, and he got he was going against Travis Gibson, and it's happened very quickly. This is definitely a testament to Travis Gibson's get off. But he it was in less than a blink of an eye, he was already past Larry Borum in these, he pulled one little swim move and then that was it. He was gone. And Larry Borum just kind of lost his leverage completely, and it just wasn't a good rep at all for the offensive line. They made Larry kind of go up against, I forget who else, because at that point I was just kind of like, oh God. But they had him redo the rep against someone different, and he did hold up better. I just don't remember which defensive end it was. So I like Riley Reiff slotted in at right tackle still. I don't know.
You were upset about this last week.
I know,
but to your credit, you were saying that if Braxton, if he comes out and is the guy at left tackle, there's nothing wrong with that. If we have our left tackle of the future and the Bears are like, oh yeah, this is going to be our guy.
Yeah.
That's
I thought it was going to be Teven Jenkins a week ago, but now after going to Bears camp and all of the rumors circulating around Teven Jenkins, he might not be a Bear for much longer. So
I was very strong the other day, being like, you guys are being ridiculous. I even went after somebody who was on the Tape Never Lies network. I'm like, how do you give up on a guy? It would have to be so bad for a second round pick who was a first round grade to be moved in his second year. I'm like, it would have to just unravel so quickly, much to my chagrin. It looks like it's been that way. What is the media talking about? When they're sitting there, don't call anybody out. Don't say it's don't say it's Nick Moriano or somebody, but what's the general consensus amongst the media folks to what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the general consensus that something is fishy, right? So when Eberflus was asked about Teven Jenkins' status yesterday in the press conferences, and he said nothing's changed from last week. And when last week he said it was a day-to-day thing. that he's working through with the trainers. It's some type of injury he's working through, would not disclose what the injury is, doesn't have to right now. So that's fine. Yeah. But what was interesting was that immediately after saying that, he then offered up the Thomas Graham injury news completely unprompted. No one asked about Thomas Graham. And I don't know if you know these head coaches, but they are not ones to divulge information willingly or electively. And so to me, I was like, it just seemed like a complete effort to distract anyone from asking follow-up questions about Teven Jenkins. And so like that was kind of my read into it. Whether that was actually the case, I'm not sure, but I think other people kind of picked up on that too. And then that's when a few hours later, then you got Mike Garafolo saying, yeah, there's a trade market. Teams have been calling about Teven Jenkins. And like, they're inquiring about like what his value would be, like what they could give up. And if the Bears are going to do this, if they're going to like get offload Teven Jenkins, they should do it now while they can get something for him rather than later when they're just going to have to release him for the 90, down to the 53-man roster cuts. Yeah. So like, I don't know how much of it was like the Bears trying to drum up their own trade market for Teven Jenkins, but like, this is a new staff. They didn't draft him. I mean, you see it all the time that these guys just aren't as attached to the guys that they didn't bring in. So if it's not gelling, if there's something internally wrong there, which again, we don't know for sure if there's any friction behind closed doors, but it certainly seems like there's something fishy. And I took it because of the amount of times I've tried to pull information out of coaches and they do not willingly give it up, especially when they're under no obligation to do so. And to hear Matt Eberflus just go, oh, but by the way, Thomas Graham is going to be out for a longer period of time with a hamstring. He's got a soft tissue thing. And I'm like, great to know. Thanks for telling us. But that was kind of a quick change of subject.
Yeah. Like when little kids do that, when they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm the one who broke that vase. And you're like, wait, why are you telling me this? What worse thing happened?
Yeah. Well, you did something else that was worse.
Wait a minute. I appreciate your candor here, but you must have done something far worse to try to draw attention away. But speaking of Teven Jenkins, I'm sorry. Hold on. What do we got here? Sorry. What do we, Bear Forever 14. What do you say? What do you say to the guys who are picking the Bears to win 4 or fewer games? And don't hold back either. Bear Forever 14. I got to be honest with you. That's some of the stupidest conjecture I've ever seen in my life. First of all, the Bears have the 8th easiest schedule based on where teams finished last year. And I know the NFL switches from year to year. Everybody wants to give the Detroit Lions the benefit of the doubt. Like, they finished 3-3. Like, I'm like, they were 3-14. What about the first 4? Like, what are you talking about? Like, why do they get all the credit in the world? By the way, their quarterback is still Jared Goff. Like, that's the thing. I see like Kyle Brandt, he was on Good Morning Football today talking about like Dan Campbell has this shirt that says unfragile or non-fragile or whatever it was. One of his dumb sayings. He's like, that's so great. I want to wear that t-shirt. I'm like, Kyle Brandt, don't you wear that shirt? Like, people are already upset with you for the fact that you were announcing the Bills pick. You want to announce the Lions pick next year, which is going to be top 5? Be my guest. Goff is still their quarterback. I love a lot of what the Lions have. I love DeAndre Swift. I think Jamison Williams is good. Jared Goff is not a good quarterback compared to other NFL quarterbacks. Listen, if we were playing an intramural game, if I was back in the day, if I was going to Cal and it's like, oh, Jared Goff's our intramural quarterback, yeah, I would take him. He's probably better. He's probably better than the guy for Sigma Pi who was the quarterback of Crespi High School or whatever. Okay, fine. Jared Goff's better than that guy. But compared to other NFL quarterbacks, Jared Goff is not better. The defense is good. Our defense, I should say, is good. Like, we're going to win at least 6 games. We won 6 games last year. We're winning at least 6. I'm saying 9 to 10. I know we've talked about that. What do you say, Carmen? Sorry.
I don't know how this turned into trashing the Lions. Like, it's like kicking them when they're down. No, but I think, like, do you know how bad of a team you have to be to only win 4 games? Like, I've been on teams that won 5 games that were absolutely just unhinged. Like, and with the Bucks, like, it was just like everything was so disjointed and like there was absolutely no like Like it was no surprise that they still won 5 games. Like they were so dysfunctional and yet still won 5 games in a very tough division at the time too. Like that's like when the Panthers were good. That's when the Saints were like just by far and away going to win the division. They were like back to back division champions in the NFC South. So it's like, and then like Atlanta still like put up a fight then too, like in those years. That was one of the years Atlanta went to the Super Bowl. So I'm like, if you can win 5 games, being part of a stacked division at the time, having very disjointed things going on behind the scenes, and having a quarterback that is unpredictable at best, like that, like look at the Bears, like you just said. I really love this defense. I'm falling more and more in love with it every single, like the more I see it, every single thing I hear, the more we get to talk to these guys. And then and that alone will prevent, teams from scoring a ton of points. And so it's not up to the offense to have to do so much. And then you've got Justin Fields, who has an offensive coordinator that's building a system around him. And the system, I'm telling you guys, like we can't divulge a lot of stuff because there's all these PR protocols and stuff like that you can't say certain things. But let me tell, it is exactly what you want it to be. It looks exactly like what you want it to look like. And it plays to Justin Fields' strengths. And like, it's going to take a little while to figure out, but you get halfway through the season, you get into a rhythm a little bit. Your defense is going to keep you in games. Like, I think people are very much underestimating how bad you have to be to win 4 or less games.
Yeah. And I would advise anybody too, that's hearing reports out of camp that Justin missed a throw in the back of the end zone. He missed N'Keal Harry today. They came back again and they connected with them. I'm sorry. I feel stupid. I know you were there and I wasn't, but I'm paying attention. I'm
glad you are. It's good.
Paying attention. I tell people like it's very similar to when you're golfing, and I golf. Listen, I'm happy to break 90 kind of guy. If I shoot in the 80s, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. I always tell one of my good friends, Marty, whenever we're playing, I go, you know what? If I hit a shot that like I have a great swing and it's pure and it's like 10 yards further than I wanted it to be, I'm like, because you're at 89 yards or something like that. Like I'm not Rory McIlroy. I just get the swing good, get this good, then eventually it'll work itself out. I think that's the way you got to look at Justin Fields right now in the offense. Like, okay, how's his footwork? The throwing motion's fine. Yeah, you want to connect these passes. And I'll see tweets be like, you don't want to leave that many balls on the ground on 7-7. Like, bro, it's the first day of pads. Right. Calm down. Like, how is it? What are the mechanics looking like? What are the throws looking like? Is he throwing spirals? Is he throwing a Tim Tebow duck? Like, that's the kind of stuff. That's when you can get concerned. But like the small things of like, we didn't execute like it was week 10. You're like, okay, well, it's August 2nd. Yeah. So let's just calm down, people.
And to Justin's credit too, as soon as that overthrow happened today, he was like him and N'Keal were right with each other. Like they were going over what went wrong, why that happened. You couldn't tell necessarily from their body language what they were saying, but like it was an immediate thing where it was like they weren't just letting that go. It was okay, let's figure out what went wrong, and so it doesn't happen again. And Justin connected with plenty of guys. 7-on-7. When you do have some, and you have some contesting catches from the DBs. The DBs are there. The DBs are on these guys. And like I was saying, in pads, they can go pretty full tilt. So it's not like, he was like missing a guy wide. He was open, but there was still other things happening on the field. He may not have been getting any pressure in his face, but there was still deep defenders on the field.
Tom Brady tried to play 5 downs against the Bears a couple of years ago. So it happens. Things happen. Things happen when you play football. But I want to go back to Teven Jenkins because we were talking about potential trade market. I actually, I tweeted this out yesterday. I actually found a pretty good deal for Teven Jenkins, going back to Ryan Pace, the guy who wanted to draft him.
You did.
Say, hey, just Kyle Pitts for Teven, straight up, bro. Like no picks. This is a straight up swap. You have your left tackle of the future. You don't need Kyle Pitts right now at this stage of development. You're going to be wasting his career anyways when you're starting Desmond Ridder. So, by the way, I will tell you this. I'm going to sneak in a fantasy take right now. So I apologize.
Please don't.
If you're not drafting Kyle Pitts because Marcus Mariota is the quarterback, that's a fool's errand right there. Delaney Walker was one of the best tight ends in fantasy football when Marcus Mariota was the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Like, he would, like, Delaney Walker kept finishing in the top 5. Like, I was thrilled when they, not that you want Matt Ryan to go, but you're like, oh, if they give Marcus Mariota that gig, like, oh my God, Kyle Pitts going to be even better. I have him in a dynasty league. I had a dynasty startup that I did last year. My first pick, it's a super flex. And I know we'll get back to the Bears talk here in a moment.
No, it's fine. I'm going to be going through my fantasy draft soon. So I'm all ears right now.
My first pick in this dynasty startup was Justin Herbert, which I feel great about. Our second quarterback, I think, is Zach Wilson, but whatever. No, we have a better guy. But my second pick, because everybody was going 2 quarterbacks, and they all just went off the board. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take Kyle Pitts. And everybody was freaking out because Justin Jefferson went right in front of him. And I'm like, oh, Kyle Pitts, like, I'm going to lock up a tight end in a dynasty league forever. Like, I feel good about that. So feel comfortable drafting Kyle Pitts. And by the way, if you're ever here on a Tuesday night or even on, and we're going to start putting more fantasy into our Thursday shows as well, or the shows that you can see on AM 1530 WCKG, we'll be hitting some more fantasy talk throughout the day. But just wanted to sneak that in.
Listen, I appreciate that because that might be my sneaky, like, in a regular PPR league. Are you saying that I should go after Kyle Pitts first?
Are you
going to go so far as to say that?
No. I got him, like, he was around in the 4th round of a half-point PPR draft I just did the other night, which I don't think is I think somebody will end up drafting him in the 3rd round, but I feel really good about taking a quality running back right off the top if you're one of the first 4 or 5 picks. Or, you know what, if you could combine Justin Jefferson, another wide receiver. I don't mind going Justin Jefferson, Kyle Pitts, and then coming back with like Allen Robinson. Might still be too early for Allen Robinson, but if you've seen him over the last couple of days, he's looked incredible, and I think he's going to be ready to play some football this season.
I think so too. I think he's going to do well in Los Angeles, as much as that pains me to say. But
he's still our friend.
That's true. We still want him to do well.
It wasn't his fault. Like, we don't blame him.
No, it wasn't. You're right. It was not his fault. No, I really like Kyle Pitts, especially because you can slot him in as a tight end and he's going to give you receiver numbers. So, and also it's easy for, even if it is Desmond Ridder that starts, like, he's a big target. Big targets are easier to hit. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, big targets are easier to hit.
100%. And it's crazy too. Like,
his catch radius is insane.
Bringing it back to the Bears, like, Kyle Pitts did not break Mike Ditka's single season record for receiving yards for a tight end last year. Now, Kyle Pitts got over 1,000 yards. Only the second rookie tight end to ever do that. Ditka was the first and only until last year, playing in a 14-game season in the NFL in the 60s. How does that happen? I want to go back. When I'm at Hallis Hall tomorrow, I'm going to say, pull me the tape from Ditka's rookie year. I want to see what was going on, because no other tight end ever, like, we're talking about Kelsey, we're talking about Tony Gonzalez, Kellen Winslow, like, all these guys, nobody's ever done this. Yeah. And yet Ditka did it, and it's a record that's still, and I was rooting against Kyle Pitts breaking that record last year too, because I'm a jerk. Like, let's have Ditka have at least one more record.
You can go see the Coach Ditka bobblehead in the PNC Center in Hallis Hall. There's a giant.
I'm doing it all.
Of Coach Ditka.
I'm doing it all. Like,
I'm so pleased.
Don't worry about me. You'll see it. It'll be all over my Instagram tomorrow. But let's see. I'm sure there's questions that people have. I'm sorry to get to the fantasy talk and some other Bears stuff, but we have a question. What do you think a successful day for the offense versus the defense? What do you think is a successful day for the offense versus the defense who's having a success? Yeah, how do you do that? How do you quantify that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very apparent when the offense is in a rhythm and you don't see, like I said, the false starts were definitely an issue. I mean, the false starts were even an issue in one-on-ones when to be honest, when I was watching the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen, like, that happened in those drills. So, like, that's really hard. And then again, like with all of the rotation that's happening, like there's just no rhythm there. And so you get the drop passes, you get the missed reads, you get all of that kind of stuff. It's a little bit harder to tell exactly, because so in practice too, like you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. No one is allowed to hit the quarterback. So the guys on the line, the pass rushers, they can get close, and then you have to be able to see that that would have been a sack, but they usually let the play continue anyway. And so that's what kind of makes it hard for like the defense, especially, to figure out if it was an actually good day, because they could have 3, 4, 5 sacks, but obviously they can't touch the quarterback. So it's hard to see those things. The reason I think, though, that the Bears, you're seeing people say that the Bears defense has been so dominant in these first, couple of 6 practices now. It's just because they're getting their hands on balls. And that is, again, what Eberflus preaches constantly. Swarm the ball, get your hands on a ball. And that is what is happening. Even when they weren't in pads, you see these defensive backs getting in front of receivers and batting down balls and preventing plays from happening, getting interceptions, turning that stuff into interceptions, swarming to the ball, all of those good things. And so that's really easy to see, and that stands out. So when it relates specifically to the Bears, I mean, we can go through like general parameters of how it looks good, but the reason it's looking so good for the Bears defense really is the secondary and the fact that they are just, again, preventing plays from happening, preventing passes from getting completed, and playing really, really physical. I mean, they're up on these guys. As soon as they're allowed to, past the 5 yards, they're up on their receivers and stuff like that. And they seem to have a flow. The offense does not yet, but that's also okay. There's a ton of new pieces. It's an entirely new offense. It's a very different offense. So even for the guys that were there before. And again, I can't stress enough how much of an effect that offensive line shuffling and rotation is having on the rest of the offense.
Yeah, that's always going to be a big deal. And it seems too, and this is, obviously, again, I'm going to get my first look at this tomorrow up close and personal. But, Eberflus comes in and he preaches all the hits, the loafs, the acronyms that he's got going on. He's got a lot of energy. I know that, somebody was talking about how he had a lot of, like, he's still a pretty intense coach, but he's dialed back a little bit from when he was just the defensive.
That was Al-Qadim Muhammad talked about that. He was asked what the difference is between Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, and the head coach. He actually said Eberflus is more relaxed as a head coach, which is wild. But it's because, he sits back and observes, and he's like, he's always watching you. And I was like, cue the 80s song right now. I always feel like, but he's much more kind of like back observing everything now. But before, apparently, he would really get on guys, especially if it was a lack of effort. Like, that was the number one way to piss them off. Yeah.
I think that's been something that they've stressed ever since this regime took over, is that you have to love football. And I think that goes back to why people are questioning what's happening with Teven Jenkins, is that everybody knows that the number one, or probably the number one mantra of Ryan Pace and Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles. Gosh, I gotta stop doing that. Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus is that they need guys who love to play football. And if you don't love to play it, it's very apparent. Like there's, you can see it. Like you stand out. I mean, you go back to anybody who played high school level, even, you knew the kids who were like, these guys don't care as much as I did or anything like that. So I think it's great. And I know that people sometimes question the hokiness of, things like the acronyms or whatever. Then like, oh, this stuff's going to wear off real thick. But I never get that impression. I think that, if it wears off, then you're going to end up not having a job. Like, do you think that these guys are really buying into that?
Actually, I have someone who has told me they are buying into it in the form of their special teams assistant. His name is Carlos Polk. We were actually together in the Bucs organization under Dirk Cutter. Carlos was the special teams assistant there too. And I caught up with him after practice today, and I was asking him how things were going. He was in Jacksonville last year, so things are going a lot better for him. Yeah. But he was saying how much these players are going to love playing for Eberflus. He was with Eberflus in Dallas when Eberflus was, I believe, he was either one of the secondary coach or the linebackers coach. And they were there together, and he's just like, he loves football. He is so easy to play for. He is so intense. He runs just like practices are just so he kept saying the word intense. And I was like, this is great. And that's what the players were saying too. And I'm like, okay, we're all on the same page here. But he was just stressing how much these players are going to love playing for a guy like Matt Eberflus. So I think that they are fully bought in. And again, like they can see the fact that, yes, the offense is changing and it's molding to the players it has. And the defense is stressing. It has its own strengths. And like, I think everyone is just really buying into it, and practices seem fun. I mean, there's music going, and like these guys just seem like they're having a lot more fun, and they like coming to work, and that permeates through the staff too, according to Carlos. So.
Yeah, and you love for everybody to be on board. And by the way, if you're enjoying this show, be sure to use the comment function, comment the word "sick" to let us know that you're enjoying the conversation. You're enjoying the show. I love function. The comment function. I don't know.
Adam.
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. Such an old man. Do we have another question though? Sammy, save me. Who's been the biggest surprise in camp so far? I've got an idea, but has there been somebody who's not, first of all, to you, or just somebody that people are talking about like, oh, I'm kind of surprised he's this good?
I touched on Kyler Gordon earlier, and I think that seeing him in the slot as a slot corner was a little bit surprising, just to see that happen so quickly, and to see him pick it up and still be making plays in that position. And again, like I know, like I saw it today, like Travis Gibson, he looks really good, and they're lining him up all over the defensive front. He's inside, he's outside. A lot of coaches actually. So Matt Eberflus was asked about the rookie Dominique Robinson, defensive lineman, and he said that he intrigues the defensive staff, which was an interesting comment. And then today, special teams coordinator Richard Hightower was asked if he about Dominique Robinson too, and he said, yeah, he's got some, he's been picking up the scheme really well on our phase of the ball, and he could be some help on teams too. So it seems like that he might be kind of a rookie to keep an eye on, just because he might be, doing some good things, the field goal blocking unit. And then, to be intriguing as a rookie is always, I would think, a good thing.
No, you always want that. And I know a lot of people looked at a lot of the draft equity that Ryan Poles was able to acquire getting a lot of 5th, 6th round picks. Some of these guys are starting to look pretty good. Obviously, Braxton Jones being one of them, looking to, possibly start at left tackle. Dominic Robinson, another 5th rounder who could come in and play a huge role for this team. So I think that I'm really pleasantly surprised with the value that they were getting with a lot of these picks. And okay, listen, they're not going to probably come out and be superstars, or they don't have to be, but if they're quality contributors to the NFL, to the team, and playing at an NFL level, that's all you can really ask for. Of course, selfishly, I've noticed a lot of people starting to praise Velus Jones Jr. And not to the point where I'm going to be jealous or anything like that. I watched over the weekend. I was sitting there in Cincinnati on Saturday, right before my hit. Tom Pelissaro and I were sitting there waiting, watching a taped interview with Kimmy Chex and Kyle Brandt, talking about how they were somehow driving the hype train for Darnell Mooney. I'm like, oh, thank you, the two of you, for bringing Darnell Mooney to our attention. And then I sat back, because I said, you know what, that's fine. If everybody wants to be whatever, everybody's here to see the headlining band. I'm here to see the middle act, which is Velus Jones Jr. And we talked about it, and Courtney was on last week, and we were talking about this. And before the show started, our producer was asking about it, hey, who's the fastest guy on the team? And you're like, you got to be kidding me. It's Velus. He's a 4.31. This guy's incredible. I think we're starting to see him make some plays. I saw some videos over the weekend, and it seems like guys got a little bit of a buzz. What was the scuttlebutt over the last couple of days?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can see his speed, and he takes off down the sideline. But actually, I saw him in the red zone today. He grabbed a kind of toe tapping outside corner of the end zone type ball from Justin Fields, who was on the run, hit Velus Jones, or maybe it wasn't Justin Fields. It could have been It could have been either Trevor Siemian or Nathan Peterman. It might have been one of the backups because he was rotating in with the twos as well. Bayless Jones was. But regardless, it was like right in front of me. It was in the corner of the end zone, toe tapping, grabbed the ball, fell out of bounds, not before he established that he was in bounds. It was impressive. And it was a contested catch. So not only can he like go down the sideline, he can get those tough catches in traffic in the red zone, which is going to be, you're going to need like guys that can do that, because I saw a lot of that out of actually the tight ends too. Ryan Griffin has had some awesome catches.
What there was. Clay Harbor was talking about it. Clay Harbor was there today, and he was talking about him and O'Shaughnessy. Both of them played very well today, which is not a surprise. Yeah. Those guys they're good tight ends. Yeah. I know them obviously from doing That Helps No One, that they randomly score touchdowns, which are annoying. But like you score because you're good. Like they're good players. I think that both of them, they're not going to come out and be Travis Kelce, but
But the Bears run like from what we've seen, like multiple or two tight end sets, like.
Yeah,
I saw quite a bit of that, and you saw Cole Kmet and Ryan Griffin out there together, and both were making really good catches, like really tough, good catches, and providing really big targets for Justin Fields to latch onto. And so, I mean, like at one point, Ryan Griffin literally wrestled a ball away from the defender. Yeah. So, like these DBs aren't the only ones getting physical. Apparently, the tight ends are too.
No, they're doing great, and according to Next Gen Stats. The Packers used 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, on just over 30% of their offensive plays in 2021. That was the second most of the NFL, behind Miami, who used 12 personnel 62% of the time last year. The Bears used 12% on 22% of their offensive plays in 2021. That was about middle of the pack. So I expect them, though, to go back and be closer to where probably not to the extent of the Dolphins last year, but to be very similar. I mean, that's the kind of things I think that is mindful to pay attention to. It's like, okay, like Aaron Rodgers is obviously a different quarterback at the stages of their career, but if Luke Getsy likes to run 12 personnel, then that's significant. And it's good that we have guys like Ryan Griffin and O'Shaughnessy who've proven they can play at the NFL level.
Yeah, and I love the mismatches that tight ends can create if you do have those kind of well-rounded wide tight ends, which is what they're trying to morph both of these guys into, especially Cole Kmet. And Cole Kmet, I mean, his hands look more natural than ever. I feel like he looks so good in the receiving game now. I mean, I don't have a ton to compare it to. I didn't see him at practice last year. But, his bread and butter at Notre Dame was blocking. And so he's come a long way in becoming that complete tight end. And Ryan Griffin talked about him saying, like, he's going to be a really, really good tight end in this league. And Ryan Griffin also told us that just in this offense in general, that tight ends are responsible for doing a lot of things, and they are very involved in this offense. So again, it's so easy when you can insert these players that can be an extension of the offensive line, or they can like split out into routes. Like I'm not saying they're going wide and, getting vertical all the time, but especially those underneath kind of intermediate routes, that just presents so many mismatches for those big targets. And has to be really good for Justin Fields, because that's a very comfortable thing to know that you have reliable big targets that you can go to. And I saw a lot out of these tight ends that I really liked.
Yeah. And it goes back, a lot of this ties back to the Shanahan coaching tree. And we know it has happened in San Francisco, and not that any of these guys are George Kittle, but they've used a number of different tight ends in San Francisco, and even the Rams too, when they had Gerald Everett and the other guy, Tyler Higbee. They have an ability to use those guys too. So I think it's very encouraging to see that the tight ends are playing so well thus far. All right, Sammy, how about another question? I know that we've I wonder if the Mullock. All right. Listen, I understand. Okay, listen. I understand. There's a chat going on. There's comments. There's all sorts of things. I know there's a Lions fan that pops in that everybody's trying to get banned.
Really? I don't get to see any of this. So
I don't. Sometimes you don't want to live in the comment section. It's one of those things. Like sometimes you're just like, you know what? Like you gotta let some of those things go. It's kind of like when you're on Twitter too. Like, why do people have so much? Like people have too much access to you. Like back in the day, and I might have said this on the show, like back in the day, like the insanity of sports fans. There's a Don? Yeah. Wait, hold on. You come on. Man, he's garbage. The real St. Brown. Stop it. Equanimous St. Brown apparently has a chip on his shoulder. Has been playing pretty well. There's a lot of guys. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Both of these guys played high school football in Orange County, so I'm familiar with both of them. One of them went, although I forget which one, with Equanimous went to Servite, and Amon-Ra St. Brown went to Mater Dei. I think I have correct. But that's a good family. Like, they're good. Look, I'm not going to listen, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right.
I like that. I like Jerome Williams. I like DeAndre Swift. Your quarterback sucks, though. I don't know how else to put it. I don't feel like I need to hide this from you. Like, yeah,
I will say the Lions also have Antoine Randall as their receivers coach. So
I love.
We are big Antoine fans over here. Big Randall fans.
Do you know that he's from Riverdale? And years ago, when he was a rookie, I asked him. I said, "Hey, Riverdale, are you Betty or Veronica?" And he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, "Riverdale." Like, you never. Well, now it's a series. I want to know now. Like, have you heard of Riverdale now? Like, I walked by a Hot Topic the other day, and they have a bunch of Riverdale merch.
If he didn't know Riverdale from the original comics, he was not going to know it from the. He's
from the
so
CW. The CW. It's a viable show. I don't know.
But he loves being from Chicago. Like, he reps Chicago all of the time. Actually, for Christmas one year when he was with the Bucks, he got me a Portillo's gift card.
Oh my God, what a guy!
Really sweet of him. What a guy! Just so sweet.
He's a he's a good dude. I liked him. Indiana. I don't know where it is. I had a Antoine Randall mouse pad from years ago when I was an intern with the NFL. I got sent one from the University of Indiana because they're pumping them up. I got to go find that. I know that I didn't get rid of it. Oh no, I replaced it with a Jake Plummer one eventually. But listen.
Oh, from my other school.
Yeah.
Not that Indiana is my school, but from
ASU. I know. Listen, I'm a Sun Devil. Like, don't worry about it. Sort of. But in any event, how about another question from the comment section?
Throw that up when there's a lit comment section.
I know. There's a lit comment section. Will Eddie Jackson rise once again? Yeah, this is one of the things I heard today. Like, it sounds like Eddie Jackson's been playing very well. Mm-hmm. What did you see out of him over the last 2 days?
Again, like, he's leading the charge as far as like the physicality goes. I think he's settling into this and he's buying into this defensive system well. He knows that he's the vet in that secondary, and he is he's leading the way. I mean, there's not enough that you can say about Eddie Jackson. And then also, like, the flexibility that Jaquan Brisker brings between, Jaquan Brisker can play all over, so he can be the free safety. He can come down in the box. He can do whatever. And that kind of lets Eddie Jackson, I think, play a little bit more freely as well. So I think those two are going to be a really good tandem. And yeah, he just seems completely bought in. He's really physical. He's making plays. He's covering receivers down the sideline too. So, like, yeah, I think he'll return to form and you'll see a really good year out of Eddie Jackson. Yeah, I think he loves this system.
If they get Eddie Jackson to be like the Eddie Jackson before he got injured in the Packers game in 2018, then I think that we're going to be on to something special. So I'm excited to see. Again, I'm really looking forward to seeing this up close and personal tomorrow. I'm also looking forward to another question, Sammy, from the live comments section from the function. Biggest disappointment other than Teven Jenkins. By the way, today was the Major League Baseball trade deadline. And I will say this from an Angels perspective of, like, watching a prospect like Joe Adell 2 years ago would have fetched, like, such a commanding, like, return in a trade. And now they couldn't even give him away. Like, they had to trade their other disappointing guy today. So it feels like they got to move. Like, if there is really a problem, they got to trade Teven Jenkins immediately. But to me, obviously, that is so that right now is a little bit of a disappointment. Has there been anything else? I guess maybe Roquan not signing a contract yet, but is there anything else that I'm missing? What else has been disappointing?
I'm really not even worried about Roquan though. Like, I guess I just have faith that it's going to get done, and, like, because he's still very present in the building from everything his teammates and his coaches have said. He's in the meetings. He's very present. He's still helping the guys behind the scenes. He's not practicing, but other than that, it's still very much a hold in. Like, he's still around. So I take that to mean like it's going to get done, and I'm just not worried. I mean, again, him not having representation, I think, is probably like delaying this process a little bit, just because I don't know. I wouldn't know the first thing about representing myself in these kinds of contract talks, and I'm sure he does, and I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But I have to imagine that like agents can kind of speed these processes along, and I don't know that maybe that's why. That being said, I'm trying to think like there's no player that I'm like expecting to be good that I haven't seen anything out of. Like I'm disappointed that Lucas Patrick got hurt.
Right.
So that counts as a disappointment, because I think that would have gone a long way in determining like in quickly determining who your starting five were on the offensive line. I'm disappointed that he's not out there to anchor that and to kind of, because he's the one with the most experience. He's the one that, you know, other than Cody Whitehair, but like, I don't know. I think I was looking forward to having at least that locked up, because we like the whole time it was like, all right, the offensive line is totally in flux, but like, you know, Lucas Patrick is going to be the center.
Yeah.
You know, Cody Whitehair is going to be a guard. Like you knew those things. And now, you know, not that Sam Mustipher's doing a bad job. He's getting back in there and getting back in the swing of things, and he likes competing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's it. That's a little disappointing for me.
Yeah, I guess the injuries, that's probably the big thing. Like him and Thomas Graham, of course, not being able to participate this far. But you know what? Everybody's got injuries. Everybody's dealing with certain situations like that. So he can't.
Denver got 2 ACLs in Denver. Awful.
Just an awful situation, the way that's turned out. So we should count our blessings that hopefully both those players will be back sometime in the near future. What about another question, Sammy? You'll be at camp tomorrow? Yes, obviously. I'm going to be at camp tomorrow, so don't be afraid to come up and say hello. Not while I'm doing a hit with Stacey Dales, though. Kind of be cool about that. But we're hopeful. We're hopeful that we're going to get Matt Eberflus on. Like that's one of the asks. We're going to get one of the players. They've already done Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney. So we're hopeful that somebody like David Montgomery will be made available, or perhaps
he had a good day.
He had a day. That's the one thing. Like that's been kind of quiet. Like David Montgomery coming into his contract year, a lot of speculation on whether he'll return or not. How's it been?
I think it's just because it's expected. Like he had a good season last year. Like, you know, that like the running game is solid with him and Khalil Herbert. And despite the fact that, the offensive line is in this rotation, when the pads came on, like then you can actually kind of get an idea for the running lanes and because running backs are allowed to be tackled at this point. And he had a great day. He had a couple really good runs. So I think it's just, you don't hear about it though. Cause like, again, it's, David Montgomery's good.
He's solid. We got it. We already know that he's good. It's like I don't need to come up and say how great Portillo's was today. Like you already know that. Like there's no secret there. Of course it was amazing. All right. How about another question, Sam? Who do you think will win the third cornerback spot? Yeah, we're talking about Jalen Johnson. We're talking about obviously Kyler Gordon. Who seems to be the guy that they're going to with that third spot?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Like, I really thought that it was going to be Kyler Gordon. And I think that the Bears even thought that it was going to be Kyler Gordon. And from what we've seen, it's been I'm trying to, like, I have all these numbers in my notes, and I don't have the roster memorized yet.
Yeah, so we have, like, Jalen.
I'm looking through my notes right now.
Like Kindle has Kindle been getting a lot of runs?
Kindle Valor has been in there again. Like it's still like those corner rotations. It's a constant rotation too. So you really can't tell. Kindle Valor has gotten a lot of like significant work. Duke Shelley. Yeah, I think Kindle Valor is probably going to surprise some people and end up in that.
Yeah, that's spot. What listening to 1530 earlier today. That felt like that's who they were talking about a little bit. The Kindle Valor,
especially now that Thomas Graham is going to be out for an extended period of time. I mean, I think that was obviously his spot to lose. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited. I want to see Thomas Graham out there. I thought that he was one of the great draft picks. That Ryan Pace, he came through with a couple of late round picks. I mean, he can't disregard some of the guys like obviously Darnell Mooney, even David Montgomery, but you start thinking back to of guys that he moved up for, and you're like, oh, right. Like if we end up having to trade Teven Jenkins, you're like, God, we had to trade up, and I will say this though.
That's not on this regime, right? That's not on this regime.
It's not on this regime. And I know that I was excited as anybody. I will completely own that. I thought he was a great prospect coming out of Oklahoma State.
A lot of people did.
I stood by that evaluation probably longer than although I'm always the last one out. It always feels like I was the last one out on Cutler. I was the last one out on Nagy. I'm there with Teven Jenkins, even though I was poking fun at him. I was sort of out on Mitch Trubisky, early on. By the way, can we pull up? Let's talk about this because this was interesting. I know you quote tweeted this. Mitch Trubisky was talking about this, the difference between what was going on with Josh Allen in Buffalo, what his experience was like in Chicago. And I know, a lot of people are talking about this today. And the quote is like, oh, Josh was able to go out and play. I had to go fit into the coach's system. I think a lot of people agree with that. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, we have this highly athletic quarterback who not a great pocket passer. He's going to have to win on his athleticism. They didn't lean into that enough. I had no problem with Mitch saying this at all.
I mean, it's what I quote tweeted was that there are two kinds of coaches in this league. This is a thing. Like, there are the coaches that fit players into the system that's already established, that's been their system, no matter where they are, that's their system, and these players are going to fit into it. And then there are coaches that fit the system to the players they have. And more in today's NFL, I'll give you one guess as to which one of those is the more successful one. And it's what the Bears have currently, and perhaps not what the Bears had previously when Mitch was here. So
I see what you're getting at. There was also, I'm curious about this too, because, there was speculation, and I don't know how true this is, but people are like, oh, Tom Brady had interest in being, the quarterback of the Bears when he was looking for a new team after leaving New England. Do you think, we all love Nick Foles for being the guy who just openly sort of questioned and clowned Matt Nagy. And I'm not even saying that Tom Brady was close to being here or anything like that, but for instance, if Tom Brady would have arrived and would have been the quarterback, he would have totally disregarded everything Nagy said, right? And just been like, yeah, I'm not listening to you. I'm doing my own thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would have been.
Yes, because just in general, even when, as good of as a relationship as he had with Bruce, because make no mistake, him and Bruce Arians had a great relationship when Bruce was the head coach in Tampa. There was no truth to the whole red tape stuff. It was dumb.
Stop, really? I want to believe that to be true.
Adam, Bruce didn't even have a whiteboard in his freaking office, okay? Bruce was not taking a red tape thing to the whole game plan the night before. If anybody was doing that, it was Tom, because Tom was that prepared that he's watching film up until the night before and he's changing shit. But I'm sorry. But he also, because he didn't have the full grasp on the offense, because it was the first new offensive system in 20 years. This guy was playing real live Madden. Yeah. And he was he wasn't even calling audibles. He was going to Mike Evans being like, hey, Mike, go run a 9 now. I know you're supposed to run a 7. Yeah. Go run the 9. After seeing the coverage, it's he was changing individual things in plays in real time because he didn't have a grasp of the system for the first half of the season. So he will absolutely make his own way for what he sees, and he can do it. And so I just think that if he drastically disagreed with a coach's system and didn't fit into that system, although I guess he would have fit into that system being the pocket passer that he is. But regardless, he would have taken things upon himself because no one studies more than Tom. Also, Tom's, again, been in the league for over 2 decades. There's something he hasn't seen. So, yeah, it was very interesting, though. I mean, God, yeah, when I tell you I still can't believe that the Bucs won the Super Bowl that year just because of all of the things that were against them and just how crazy it was. I still can't believe they won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, it was still pretty remarkable. It turns out Tom Brady's pretty good. I know a lot of Packer fans want to sit there and be like, God, wins aren't quarterback stats. Okay, you keep telling yourselves that. I know. Just to make excuses, because they just want to make excuses for their quarterback. Be like, there's, just because we had a Hall of Fame quarterback for 30 plus years doesn't mean that two Super Bowls should be viewed as a disappointment. Actually, it should be. But that's just me. What about, I know we're running out of time, but let's go one more question because I'm in Chicago. What will Kyler? Ooh, what
that
will,
is a really great question. You know about Kyler Gordon's dance background?
Oh
yes.
my God, yeah, we saw some of the moves. Like that was making the rounds on social media the other day. He was a performing artist, and I can only fathom what it's going to look like. What, a performing artist?
You're just on a roll. I love it.
What is that?
Nothing. No, you're right. He's a
performance art. Like, what do you want from me? What do you want? What was that wrong too?
No, it's fine. It was just funny. No, as someone with a dance background, that's what I did. I didn't play contact sports growing up. I was a dancer, and I was so appreciative of seeing that because it's so like, I don't think dance gets enough credit for how athletic it is, but then to see that Kyler Gordon is so proud of it to this day, but it just teaches you so many, like your body awareness is just on 10 because it has to be like every little muscle and movement and everything like that. But that being said, I don't know, will he go into just like some interpretive dance in the end zone? Because I would love to see that. Like, give me some modern dance. I want some fouet days. I want some just pirouettes constantly. Like, that's what I want. I want fouet days.
Or jeté, plie, all that stuff.
Otterberg.
All of it. You know what? Listen, that's the thing too. There was a very famous Hall of Famer from the 70s who was ballerina, like did ballet. Like I always thought, like, yeah, that's a pretty gnarly sport. You know, I for lack of a better term, like it is. You have to be so athletic to do it. The people try to clown on it. They're like, no. You got to be way more athletic.
You've never stepped foot in a ballet class if you try and clown on it.
Yeah, go try to get like. Listen, I've been to enough clubs in my life to see a bunch of enough uncoordinated people. Do not be making fun of somebody who can actually go out there and dance in a performative art situation. By the way, Sammy, is there another question? By the way, I want to make sure I'm not shortchanging anybody with a live comment section. And of course, can the Bears win the NFC North? Listen, Berlissimo was the one who brought this up last week, and it bears repeating. And is it likely? I don't know, but some things go wrong. But at the same time, I think that a realistic expectation for the Bears, if you want to be the optimistic sort like me, is if you're looking at what the Eagles did last year, where they really leaned into helping their quarterback with a strong running game. The defense played pretty well, and the NFC can be a little bit of a dumpster fire. Like there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns in the NFC. I think we have the Rams, we have the Bucs as a top tier. And then below that, we've got the 49ers, who, even though they went to the NFC Championship game last year, are still starting Trey Lance. You got the Green Bay Packers. So you got those four teams. And then the Eagles, you expect, they're kind of probably in that tier as well. Then you got the Cowboys people like, but I'm like, man, I don't know. Like,
they've got no one for Dak to throw to.
I'm a little bit unsold on the Cowboys. I like
I'm totally unsold on the Cowboys.
I like CeeDee Lamb, but I want to see him be the main guy.
He's going to be the main guy because they literally have no one else. He's the only one in that receiver room that has scored an NFL touchdown now, with James Washington getting hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Wild. Michael Gallup's going to be out for a significant time. James Washington is now out. You got, it's essentially like CeeDee Lamb is the only one in that receiver room that has scored an NFL touchdown.
They're going to have to rely on Blake Jarwin, Tony Pollard, and of course Ezekiel Elliott. So there's some room.
And Dalton Schultz.
What did I say? Blake Jarwin. Dalton Schultz is, of course, the guy that I meant to say. I'm still back. I was looking back at like fantasy stuff from last year, and I forgot how excited everybody was for Blake Jarwin. Like it was Blake Jarwin season, and of course he gets hurt immediately, and Dalton Schultz takes over.
And he tied for the team lead in touchdowns.
Great, great season. So in any event, I think the Bears, they're probably not going to win. I don't like the 4% thing. Like they got a 4%. Like shut up. Like that's ridiculous. But
is that what the odds make? The odds are the odds.
I don't know. Somebody, I don't know. Maybe it was Mike Clay again. It was like, I like the Packers are about a 90% probability. The Bears are about a 4. You're like, okay, like stop it. Like the Lions get a 16% and we get a 4. Like you guys have to be serious. Oh my gosh. And I'm going to go off on the Lions again, and I don't mean to.
I know, this has been like a Trash
All
the
right. I don't know. I don't mean to trash the Lions, but in any event, I think we found a convenient place to stop. But thanks to everybody who was joined. Oh, what's going on? Did you have? Oh my gosh! Of course. That's what. Listen, I'm gonna be his good luck charm. I'm gonna see him. I'm gonna have a warm embrace with him tomorrow. We're boys. Like I know that if Kimmy Checks and Kyle Brand at some point in week 4 come out like, yeah, we love Velus Jones. That's where I'm going to throw the gauntlet down and be like, we're not allowing this. I've been on here since day 1. I was on Tape Never Lies Network when he was drafted, and I did make the joke about how he's going to be able to rent a car, which is huge.
It's huge.
But I was on board because I remembered him from USC, and I'm like, oh, he would be an immediate contributor on special teams for just about anybody. For the Bears, he's going to be counted upon to be one of their top receivers. So I'm excited for it, but I think it'll be good. And by the way, remind everybody, Carmen, where they can find you on social media. What's going on with the Draft Network? What do you got coming out?
Carmi V, CarmieV is my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle. You can check all that kind of stuff out there. I've been at Bears camp, so I've been doing a lot of Bears coverage. Next week, I will be at Buccaneers camp, so there will be some of that. I'm very excited about it. Yes. So you'll get to see all of the Tom Brady stuff. So, Gary.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Yeah, this has been a fun pairing. So hopefully, and by the way, we're still waiting. Hopefully, one of us is going to get credentialed for tomorrow. I hope. I'm in. I hope. Listen, I'll call Aaron. I'll call Aaron right now. Be like, you got to get Carmen in there. Aaron's the best. Aaron's the best. Like, Aaron, settle this. Like, get her in. But hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at Bears camp. And they're not practicing on Thursday.
Right. They've got an off day Thursday, but then they go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, which
is terrible for me. I took a late flight on Thursday thinking there was going to be a practice. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here, get caught in a thunderstorm, and end up not getting back. Who knows? I might be at practice on Friday if everything gets pushed back. But I want to thank you. Thanks for being here again. And by the way, for anybody who's not aware, Carmen's a regular on Tuesday night. So thankfully, Gary liked the combo because you're going to see it every week. So be prepared for it.
You're stuck with me.
Yes. But it's been a lot of fun so far. And hope they see you tomorrow at training camp. By the way, anybody who's watching, if you see me tomorrow, come up and say hello, take a photo, do all that stuff. It's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing everybody. Thanks for being here. And then, thanks, Carmen. And we'll see everybody else on Thursday or Friday at WCKG, AM 1530. Until then, bear down. Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.